What's up everyone, this is Midnight Strike 3625 back again with another video, welcoming you guys to another classic review. So today we're going to be talking not about Megadeth's Dystopia, but we're going to dial it back about 4.5 years to when Iced Earth released their album entitled Dystopia. Released in October of 2011, this is their debut studio album featuring Stu Block on lead vocals. Prior to this, they had Matt Barlow, and after he left for the second time, they got Stu Block. But before this, of course, they had Tim Ripper Owens from Judas Priest fame. He was the replacement for Rob Halford. So basically, they got a replacement for the replacement of Matt Barlow. So, replacement of a replacement of a replacement, since Matt Barlow even was not the original lead vocalist. But I do confess, I've never heard anything from Iced Earth's original vocalist. I've only heard Matt Barlow and Stu Block, so I can't really judge Owens either, since I've only heard him in Judas Priest. But for all intents and purposes, let's talk about Stu Block, shall we? Stu Block, ironically speaking, has a vocal range similar to that of Rob Halford's. He can get very deep and very gruff with his vocals, as well as hitting all those high notes, much like the falsetto style of Rob Halford. He's got that really dark and deep and meaningful tone as well for his normal singing, as evident in songs like Anguish of Youth and End of Innocence, where he can really make those moments matter. Then he can pretty much shriek out the verses in songs like Boiling Point and Days of Rage, more of my favorite songs. He has kind of a mix in the song Dystopia, and it is very good on that note. So the songs themselves, I must say, are very well crafted. Everything sounds very unique and differentiated, and there's a ton of variety in structures of these songs. You got your slow songs, you got your fast songs, and you got your all-out, just jammin' songs that are headbangers, much like the title track would suggest, Dystopia. This is one of my favorite songs by Iced Earth, and my favorite song probably on this album, if not for Anguish of Youth and End of Innocence, kind of taking up that role. It's probably my third favorite, I'll give it that, for the title track, but I absolutely love this album. There's just so much variety, so much meaning in all the lyrics, and like I said, the structure is pretty much bar none compared to their next album, which is Plagues of Babylon. I actually reviewed that not too long ago as a re-review of a review, basically. So, didn't really like my first take on that, but more on that in the last video, basically, that I did on that. You can watch that. So with Dystopia, like I said, they were having a lot to prove. They had a lot to prove right after Matt Barlow left. Not only did the band, though, but Stu Block as a singer. I mean, I've never heard of the guy before Iced Earth, so I don't really know what else he has to offer, but now that he's an established member of Iced Earth, he has to break new ground and pretty much raise up to the level of Matt Barlow, which at this point is the most critically acclaimed singer of the band in their history, as far as I can tell. I personally like Stu Block a little bit better, but I'm a little biased as I've only really listened to Stu Block's albums in their entirety, and I've listened to maybe, some Dark Saga here, Something Wicked there, Burnt Offerings here, just kind of in spurts. I don't really have enough time to go and listen to a whole discography anymore with, kids and whatnot in the next room sleeping, but I do my best. So I will probably listen to that at a later date. So with this album, though, like I said, production is spot on, everything is where it needs to be, and it's just a good album altogether. I highly recommend it. It was actually my second album that I heard by Iced Earth, right after Plagues of Babylon. That was my intro. Didn't really care much for Plagues of Babylon as much as I like this. I was a little bit underwhelmed by it, so going into this album I wasn't really expecting much. It took me forever to get into Iced Earth. I mean, I've kind of been pussyfooting around, basically trying to give myself a reason to listen to them, but one never really came up, so I just didn't really listen to them all of 2014. But, 2015, that's my year to listen to Iced Earth. Absolutely wonderful band from what I have heard. Like I said, select songs from the Matt Barlow era and all of Stu Block's albums. So I am looking forward definitely to the Judas Goat, and hopefully it's more in the vein of Dystopia, as it's got a lot more variety in the actual structures than Plagues of Babylon, with, more of a longer, drawn-out, progressive side to that. But then again, I digress. It could be either way. It could go either way. Overall, I would say this album is probably one of the better metal albums I've listened to in the last 5 or 6 years. This is actually the most recent classic review that I've undergone, being released during the time that I actually was reviewing. I started reviewing in September of 2011. This was released in October, so no wonder I didn't actually cover it, but then again, I didn't really know who Iced Earth were back then, so I didn't know of this album's existence, and that's a real shame. So, overall, I would give this album probably I want to say 9.5 out of 10. I really like it. The only down points is Anthem kind of drags on for a little bit, but it definitely sets the atmosphere from the second you turn it on. I mean, that's what I really like about it, especially the first couple notes, just, the echoing effect of them just sets the atmosphere for the entire song and what you're about to listen to. But it just kind of drags on for far too long. It's one of the longer songs on the album, with the exception of the closer, Tragedy and Triumph. But then again, I think it was one of the singles, as it does have a string mix in the deluxe edition, so I'm not sure. Another downfall would be V, which basically has the same structure throughout the entire song, just the same kind of riff structure played over and over again, and it's got kind of that chanting chorus of resisting the government and tyranny and all that stuff. It sounds really superficial, and that's really one of the only downfalls of this album, are those two songs. But other than that, it's a great album, and I absolutely love it. So I'm gonna give it, like I said, 9.5 out of 10. Thank you very much for watching. This is Midnight Strike 3625. As always, keep calm and rock on.